It is dawn on Eternia. As the morning sun creeps up above the craggy, mystic mountains, it spills its warm, life-giving light onto the dark and foggy valleys below. Small, furry creatures stir in their holes. High in the pine trees, great birds stretch their stiff, feathered wings, while other birds, night predators, return home to their lairs in caves and hollow trees. Even the myriad strange plants that line the forest floor respond to the sun in a ballet of movement too slow to be seen by any eye. They unfurl tender new leaves and twist their faces toward the warmth of the rising sun. But this morning, the peace and tranquility of the forest is shattered by a strange intruder. It is He-Man and Battle Cat. All through the long night, they have raced on toward Castle Grayskull, determined to reach the castle before Skeletor can begin his attempt to enter the fortress. Battle Cat is fast as the wind, but can they reach the castle in time? Nearby, at Skeletor's campsite, everyone is still sleeping. Everyone, that is, except Panther, Skeletor's mammoth black cat. Perhaps it is a scent carried on the morning wind, or the sound of the rustling bushes that has awakened the cat's senses. The gigantic animal is anxious and paws at the ground nervously. He smells danger. Soon, Skeletor opens his wicked eyes with a start and looks around.
What is wrong, my good friend Panther? Do you smell or hear something that we cannot sense yet? Up, you lazy creatures! I have a feeling He-Man is drawing near. We must not let him catch us unprepared.
Soon, Triclops, Beastman, and Evelyn were awake and preparing themselves for battle. As they donned their armor, Skeletor gazed down on Castle Grayskull. Even the gleaming light of the morning sun could not erase the dark and foreboding shadows that clung to the castle walls. In the bright sunlight, Skeletor could appreciate the immense size of Castle Grayskull. Its towers reached skyward, and the mammoth stones around its base dwarfed even the huge trees of the forest. From deep within the castle walls, Skeletor thought he could hear a sound. Softly at first, but growing slowly louder. It was a voice. No, not one voice, but rather a chorus of voices speaking as one. The voices sounded anxious, as if they sensed that something dark and horrible was waiting outside the castle walls. The sound grew louder, until it reverberated through the valley and rang with a fury in Skeletor's ears.
I know that sound,
whispered Skeletor in a low and raspy voice.
It is the voice of the Council of Elders, keepers of the wisdom and power. Of course they are nervous. They know I am nearby, and that soon all that they possess will belong to me. So sing, you fools. Sing! This is the day I have dreamed of all my life. By sunset, I will be the master of Castle Grayskull.
Skeletor and his friends made their way down the side of the rocky cliff toward the castle. The approach to the castle was hard. The path was old and clogged with thorny vines and bushes. Skeletor slashed at the underbrush with his sword and hacked his way onward. Soon, they reached the entrance to Castle Grayskull. They all gathered around the raised drawbridge, which was caked and crusty with age, and gazed up toward the parapets high above. The fortress seemed impenetrable.
I have not come this far, only to be stopped by a wall of stone. We must find a way inside this blasted castle.
Perhaps I can be of some small assistance to your royal wickedness,
intoned Evelyn in her raspy bird-like voice.
I, too, do have many powers. Watch as I demonstrate my amazing skill.
Her bird-like eyes grew wild with excitement. She closed the cape over her head and grumbled a strange, unintelligible chant. A pale green mist began to form about her. Soon, she was glowing with a putrid light. A foul odor filled the air. When the fetid smoke cleared, Evelyn was gone. In her place, scratching at the ground, was a hideous vulture. It was Screech, the alter ego of Evelyn. The filthy bird had a plan. She would fly up to the top of the castle and see if she could gain entrance through one of the eye socket windows. With a dreadful screeching sound, the repulsive bird flapped its feathered wings and lurched skyward.
Look, Battle Cat! Do you see what I see? There, by the castle tower. That ugly black bird is circling the parapet, trying to get inside. By the power of Zodak, I'm sure that is Evelyn, a companion of Skeletor. We must hurry. I just hope we are not too late to save the castle from this foul intruder.
He-Man and Battle Cat charged onward through the tall bushes. The giant cat leaped high in the air, covering enormous distances with a single bound. Soon, He-Man and Battle Cat arrived at a clearing right outside the castle.
Unholy heathens! How dare you try and enter Castle Grayskull? Skeletor, you bony coward! Prepare to fight!
Well, if it isn't He-Man, the pure and puny. We have been expecting you, haven't we, my friends? How I have looked forward to this day. Finally, a chance to put your fabled strength to the test. You may be strong, He-Man, but you will find you are no match for the great Skeletor. You will perish just as sure as daylight is devoured by the night, time and time again.
You are eloquent, my fiendish enemy, but you fail to understand the true nature of the universe. While it is true that nighttime devours the day, it is doubly true that every morning the sun returns to frighten away the cowardly darkness. Just like the darkness of midnight, you are doomed by time and fate, Skeletor. Darkness has no power here. Begone!
We shall soon see who has the power in the universe. Enough talking. I grow impatient with your idle words. It is time to fight.
I would prefer not to engage in violence, but I see now that it is the only language you understand. So we will fight. By the power of Castle Grayskull!
Skeletor jumped up onto the mighty back of Panther and drew his sharp sword.
To battle, Panther! The enemy is upon us! Attack! Attack!
Battle Cat roared into action. He reared up on his hind legs and let out a terrifying growl as the two arch-enemies charged across the stony ground toward conflict. He-Man had drawn the Sword of Power, and it gleamed in the dazzling sunlight. Soon, they were upon each other in battle. The clash and clatter of sword against sword rang out across the battlefield. Cyclops and Beastman stood by and watched in awe as the two giants fought furiously. Suddenly, down from the sky flew Screech. The savage vulture caught He-Man by surprise and in an instant knocked the Sword of Power from his hand. In a split second, He-Man was struck with a bolt of energy from the sword of Skeletor, and he crashed to the ground in a cloud of dust.
So, light always triumphs over darkness, does it? We shall soon see about that. You are defeated, He-Man. You are powerless without that sword!
He-Man lay on the ground, stunned and silent. Could this really be happening? Could he actually lose the battle to Skeletor? Then he heard the sound, softly at first, like a ringing in his ears. Whispering voices. But what were they saying?
The vortex. Vortex. Vortex.
On the verge of unconsciousness, He-Man strained to understand the voices.
The vortex. The time vortex. Right beside the castle wall. You cannot see it, but it is there. Believe us. Believe us. You must trip Skeletor into the vortex. It is your only chance. The vortex. The vortex. Vortex.
He-Man staggered to his feet. He understood now. All across Eternia, there are time vortexes. Mostly they are concentrated in the Sands of Time desert. But here and there, all over the planet, there are these strange vacuums of empty space. Like tunnels through time, they lead back far into Eternia's history. Anyone who stumbles into one of these holes in time will tumble backward for endless centuries. He-Man knew now what he must do. Still reeling, he shouted to Skeletor.
I am down, but I am not defeated. If you want me, you will have to catch me.
With pleasure, He-Man. I love the hunt as much as the kill. Come, my friends, join me on Panther. We will chase the cowardly He-Man for sport. What fun!
Beastman, Triclops, and the Vulture Evelyn boarded Panther, and the monstrous cat charged after He-Man. He-Man darted back and forth, leaping high onto rocks and behind thick bushes. He was amazingly agile of foot, and soon Panther was dizzy from the constant turning and spinning. Again, He-Man heard the voices.
Over here. Trick him over here into the vortex. But be careful. The vortex will capture you too if you misjudge the distance. Be brave. Be brave. The entire planet is counting on your skill.
He-Man staggered toward the spot where the vortex swirled invisibly. Once he was sure of the exact location, he stood a few